Hi, I'm JD, and in this lecture we're going to be going over expressions. Here's a little preview, some main things. We're going to look at order of operations, and then we're going to look at simplifying expressions. Well, all this is simplifying expressions, but we're also going to see combining like terms. So a little review of order of operations. This is PEMDAS, or please excuse my dearest Aunt Sally. So what this means with order of operations, you're going to do parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication or division from left to right, then addition or subtraction from left to right. And you can kind of see this in 4 steps. It's not exactly 4 steps, but you can kind of see it in 4 steps. So you do parentheses first. Inside the parentheses, order of operations applies, so you would do that. Then exponents. Then you would move to multiplication or division from left to right. And then after you finish all the multiplication or division from left to right, you'd move to addition or subtraction from left to right. Now, if you want a little song, you can always look up a song on YouTube. I'm not going to play this here, but if you're interested, you can either post it in the course chat, or you can actually respond to the announcements. So now let's look at some examples. So what we're going to do first is what's inside the parentheses. And what's inside the parentheses, you have subtraction, multiplication, so you would multiply first the 24 and the 2. So 24 times 2 is 48. Continue to simplify what's inside the parentheses. So you would do 51 minus 48, which is 3. Now this parentheses is done. Now it's just multiplication. Now, these other parentheses are just sign holders, so they don't really count as parentheses because they're just holding a sign. But you do the exponents next. So you do -4 squared, that's -4 times -4, which is a positive 16. And you can do this -3 squared as well at the same time because it's separated. So -3 squared is positive 9. It's -3 times -3. Then we're going to do multiplication or division from left to right. So I have to do division first. The 28 divided by 4, which is 7. Continue to multiply. So it's 7 times 3, which is 21. 21 times 9, that's 189. And then 16 plus 189, that's 205. And that's your final answer. All right, let's go to the next example. Example number 2. Here's an example of a fraction. And actually, this is 3 parentheses -5 squared minus 50 over 7 plus parentheses 9 minus 5 close parentheses squared. Now the fraction bar acts like a division, well, it's like a division sign, but it's separating the numerator from the denominator. So it's acting like a grouping symbol. So the easiest way to do this is to separate the numerator and denominator and actually work them out separately. So let's start with the numerator first. So we have 3 parentheses -5 close parentheses squared minus 50. So parentheses, no, it's just a sign holder. So exponents next. So that's -5 squared, which is 25. You have multiplication and subtraction, so you do the multiplication first. So it's 3 times 25, which is 75. Now subtract 75 minus 50 is 25. So now let's focus on a denominator, which is 7 plus parentheses 9 minus 5 parentheses squared. Do what's inside the parentheses first. So 9 minus 5 is 4. 4 squared. We're doing exponents next. So that's 16. 7 plus 16 is 23. Now let's combine these. Remember, numerator goes on top, denominator goes on the bottom. So it'd be 25 over 23. You want to simplify these if possible. Here you can't, so you would just leave it. And that's your answer. Let's look at the next example, example number 3. So here we're going to evaluate. We're going to evaluate an expression. So let me read it. Evaluate 2x squared plus 4x plus 2, where x equals 1/4. And then write your answer as a fraction in its simplest form. So you're going to write out 2x squared plus 4x plus 2. Write the whole expression first. Then plug in the 1/4, replace all the x's with whatever it's asking. And it's best to do that with parentheses, especially if it's negative. Especially if it's negative. So then you would follow the order of operations, just like before. So we're going to do exponents first. So 1/4 squared is 16. You're squaring both the numerator and the denominator. 1 squared is 1, 4 squared is 16. So we did all the exponents. So next, do the fractions. Sorry, not fractions, multiplication, which involves the fractions. So 2 times 1 over 16. This is 2 over 1 times 1 over 16, which is 2/16. And this would be 4 over 4. Remember, with fractions, numerator with numerator, denominator with denominator. And if it's a whole number like this, just put it over 1. So now we have 2 over 16 plus 4 over 4 plus 2. And I guess you could simplify that if you wanted to. But I'm just going to keep them as is, which means I have to make the denominator 16, because I need a common denominator to add these together. So 2 over 16, 4 over 4, you multiply the top and the bottom by 4, you get 16 over 16. And then with this 2, you multiply the top and the bottom by 16. You get 32 over 16. Add them together, you get 50 over 16. 2 plus 16 is 18. 18 plus 32 is 50. So then you would simplify this. 2 goes into both of those. So that would be 25 over 18. And that's it. All right, so let's look at the next example. So here we're evaluating another expression. Write the expression 4x minus 1 parentheses, and the other set of parentheses, x plus 4. You know, x equals 2, so you're replacing all the x's with 2. Write it as is, and then do substitution. So you have 4, and again, be consistent. You can use parentheses if you want, but I know that 4 right next to the x means multiplication. So that's why I wrote it as 4 times 2 minus 1, and then 2 plus 4. And then just do order of operations. So you would do parentheses first. 4 times 2, it's multiplication. Do the multiplication before subtraction. So it's 8 minus 1. Then I'm going to simplify both of those. 8 minus 1 is 7. 2 plus 4 is 6. then multiply them. 7 times 6 is 42. That's it for that one. Let's look at another example. And here it's a word problem. So the perimeter of a rectangle is given by the formula P equals 2L plus 2W, where L represents the length and W represents the width. What is the perimeter of a fenced-in rectangular yard measuring 65 feet by 55 feet? So first, start off with what's given. You know that the length is equal to 65 and the width is equal to 55. Now you can switch those around. Typically the width is going to be the shorter amount, where the length is going to be the longer amount. And then write down the formula as is. Don't plug anything in yet. Just write down the formula. Why write down the formula? Because sometimes you can miswrite it, and you want to write all the steps, so then if you do make a mistake, you can kind of go back and check your work. Also, it helps to write it out so that you can be more consistent, so you can see where you're coming from. So next, what you want to do is you want to plug these in. So L equals 65 and the width is 55. And again, be consistent. So a number right next to a variable means multiplication. So it's 2 times 65, 2 times 55. 2 times 65 is 130. 2 times 55 is 110. So multiplication first and then addition. So 130 plus 110, that gives you 240. All right, let's look at another problem. Here we're going to simplify this expression. And the way to do that is by adding like terms. I'm going to rearrange them. Now, when you're adding like terms, the variable portion has to be exactly the same. So I'm putting all the x squares. You want to take whatever's in front of it. So this would be 3x squared minus x squared minus 6x minus 15x, 13 plus 7. And then you would add those together. So 3x squared minus x squared is 2x squared. Reason for that, you can assume that there's a 1 in front of this. And then negative 6x minus 15x is minus 21x. 13 plus 7 is 20. 2x squared minus 21x plus 20. These x squares are, this x squared is different from x, so you can't combine them together. You cannot combine unlike terms. You can only add like terms together. The variable portion, it has to be exactly the same. If not, you just leave it. All right, last example. It says simplify this expression. So you have negative 7 parentheses 10x minus 7y close parentheses minus 6 open parentheses 8x plus 4y close parentheses. So what do you do here? You can't do what's inside the parentheses. So what you have to do is you have to distribute. So you're going to take the negative 7, distribute to the 10x, and then to the 7y. And when you distribute, you're multiplying each of those terms. And it's whatever is attached to the parentheses. So here the negative 6 is attached to these parentheses, so you distribute the negative 6 both to the 8x and to the 4y. So negative 7 times 10x is negative 70x. Negative 7 times negative 7y is a positive 49y. Negative times a negative is a positive, that's why it's a plus. Negative 6 times 8x is negative 48x. Now, because this started out as a minus, that's why it's a minus here. Negative 6 times 4y is negative 24y. That was a plus, so this remains a minus. Now, what we're going to do next is combine like terms. So the negative 70x with this negative 48x and this 49y with the 24y. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange these. When you rearrange them, take the sign of whatever's in front of them. So negative 70x minus 48x, some large negative number. Negative 118x, 49y minus 24y gives you 25y. And that leaves you with a positive, so that's why it's a plus 25y. You can't go any further because these are unlike terms, and they have to be exactly the same in order to combine them. So that's it. So this is what we went over. So we went over simplifying expressions, which sometimes means that you're evaluating expressions. So when you're evaluating or simply doing something that's numerical, you're just doing the order of operations. But sometimes you can't quite do the order of operations because of variables. So to simplify expressions, you combine like terms. Remember, the terms, the variable portion, has to be exactly the same. Now, sometimes you end up with parentheses and you can't do what's inside the parentheses. So a way that you can get rid of the parentheses is by using the distributive property, which is multiplication over addition or subtraction. And you just multiply to each term that's inside the parentheses. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful night.